When life tightens its grip, the heart often trembles in silence. The soul may feel as if it has been abandoned, wandering through corridors of uncertainty, yet within that very trembling, Allah has placed a hidden sanctuary. Each difficulty is not merely an obstacle, but a whisper from the divine, reminding you that the heart is alive and capable of a faith deeper than comfort ever allows. The Quran reminds us that even in the heaviest of trials, Allah's eyes remain upon us. He does not abandon his servants. Rather, he watches over the subtle motions of our hearts, counting each sigh, each quiet prayer, each longing glance toward him. In hardship, the unseen hands of divine wisdom mold patience into art, sorrow into reflection, and fear into a tender awareness of his presence. It is natural to feel lost, to sense a numbness where once your iman danced freely. Moments of waiting may stretch endlessly. Guilt for past mistakes can weigh heavily upon the chest. Yet remember, the human heart was created to seek, to falter, and to return. Even in silence, even in tears shed alone at night, Allah perceives every tremor of sincerity. Your struggle is not a sign of weakness, but of the depth of your connection being refined like golden fire. Consider the mercy that flows silently behind the veil of what you cannot see. What appears as delay or absence is in truth divine orchestration. Every closed door, every unanswered question, every pang of loneliness carries within it a lesson that the heart will one day recognize as a mercy greater than immediate relief. Trust in this timing, for it is precise, compassionate, and infinitely wise. Faith is not only in the grand gestures, it is in the quiet revival of the heart. The small moments, subtle remembrance while performing mundane tasks, whispered prayers while the world sleeps, a heartbeat turned inward toward Allah, replenish the soul. These acts, though unseen by eyes, rekindle light where darkness threatens to linger. They are the threads that sew the tattered fabric of Iman back together, stronger than before. Cling to what you can do. Let dhikr be your anchor, sabr your companion, and repentance your refuge. Even a single moment devoted entirely to Allah can illuminate the path through night's deepest shadows. Speak softly to your soul, reminding it of the mercy that surpasses understanding. Trust that no heart turns sincerely toward him without being met with care, guidance, and restoration. And when the storm within begins to settle, you will recognize a heart reborn, a heart that knows that every trial, every pang of uncertainty was a tender call from Allah to awaken, to trust, and to return. Your iman is not fragile. It is a river flowing beneath the surface, growing stronger with every stone it brushes past. Walk gently in this knowledge and let your soul rise, unwavering, toward the one whose love encompasses even your quietest fears. The resonance of the soul is most clearly heard when everything else becomes quiet through pain. Hard times strip away distractions, forcing the heart to confront what it truly leans on. In moments of ease, Iman often lives on the surface, supported by routine and comfort. But when difficulty enters, the heart is asked a deeper question. Where does your trust rest when nothing feels stable? This question is not meant to break you. It is meant to awaken you. Allah allows hardship not to sever faith, but to reveal its roots. If those roots are shallow, the storm exposes them so they can grow deeper. When trials press against the chest, the soul begins to vibrate with emotions it cannot name. Fear, longing, confusion, hope tangled together. This vibration is the resonance of Iman being tested. Every ache becomes a signal, calling the heart back to Allah. The more you turn toward Him in that state, the clearer the resonance becomes. Dhikr in hardship is different from dhikr in ease. It carries weight, sincerity, and desperation. Each remembrance tunes the heart, aligning it with divine purpose rather than worldly expectations. Allah reminds us that hearts find rest only in His remembrance. But rest does not mean the absence of pain. It means stability within it. A heart connected to Allah may still feel heavy, but it does not collapse. hardship becomes a refining process, teaching the soul how to listen, to recognize divine presence in moments that feel empty. This is how Iman strengthens, not by escaping difficulty, but by allowing the heart to remain connected while passing through it. The Prophet taught us that faith increases and decreases. Hard times are not proof of loss, but invitations to growth. When the soul responds by seeking Allah rather than withdrawing, Iman deepens quietly, firmly, becoming something unshaken by circumstances. The veil of divine wisdom is often the heaviest burden the heart must carry. Not knowing why something was taken, delayed, or changed can ache more than the pain itself. The human heart longs for clarity, for reasons it can hold and control. Yet Allah, in His mercy, does not always reveal the full picture because the heart is still learning how to trust what it cannot see. Hardship becomes the place where faith learns to walk without sight, guided only by certainty in Allah's perfection. Qadr is not chaos disguised as fate. It is precision beyond human understanding. Every moment unfolds with purpose, even when it feels misplaced or cruel. Allah tells us in the Quran that He creates everything with measure, and that measure includes timing, loss, silence, and waiting. What feels like absence is often protection. What feels like delay is often preparation. The heart cannot perceive this immediately, but wisdom is working quietly, shaping outcomes that will one day make sense in the language of gratitude. During trials, the soul often wrestles with comparison. Why others are spared while you struggle? This question can corrode Iman if left unchecked. Divine wisdom does not operate on fairness as humans define it. It operates on mercy tailored to each soul. Allah knows what each heart can carry, and He knows what each heart needs to return to Him more sincerely. Some are guided through ease, others through hardship, but none are forgotten. Trusting divine wisdom does not mean silencing pain. It means allowing pain to exist without accusing Allah. Tawakkul grows when the heart learns to say, I do not understand, but I trust you. In that surrender, Iman matures, learning to rest in Allah's knowledge rather than its own limited vision. The sanctuary of patience is not a place the heart enters easily. When hardship lingers, sabr feels heavy, almost unreachable, as if patience is something meant for stronger souls. Yet sabr is not strength that arrives fully formed. It is a quiet space Allah opens within the heart when it chooses restraint over despair. This space becomes a refuge where emotions are acknowledged but not allowed to rule. True sabr does not deny pain. It gives pain a boundary so it does not consume faith. Many misunderstand patience as passive waiting, but in reality, it is an active inner stance. Sabr is the decision to remain anchored to Allah while waves of uncertainty crash relentlessly. It is holding the tongue when the heart wants to protest, guarding actions when frustration seeks escape, and preserving trust when outcomes feel delayed. The Prophet taught that patience is light because it illuminates the path forward even when answers are hidden. Each moment of restraint sharpens spiritual awareness, teaching the soul how to endure without hardening. Allah reminds us that He is with those who are patient. This companionship is subtle yet powerful. It is felt in the way the heart steadies after tears, in the calm that follows surrender, in the strength to rise each day despite unanswered prayers. Hardship becomes a training ground where patience grows muscle, turning endurance into resilience and sorrow into quiet dignity. Sabr also reshapes time. What once felt unbearable begins to feel manageable, not because circumstances change, but because the heart does. Through patience, Iman learns depth, discovering that true strength is not found in escape, but in remaining present with Allah through every unfolding moment. The echoes of forgiveness reach the heart long before the lips find the words to ask. In hardship, guilt often rises to the surface, whispering that pain is punishment and distance is deserved. The soul replays its mistakes, convincing itself that it has fallen too far to be seen with mercy. Yet Allah's mercy is not reactive. It precedes every failure. Repentance is not a door you knock on hoping it opens. It is a door that was never closed, even when you turned away. Allah tells us in the Quran that He loves those who return to Him, not those who never fall. This truth reshapes how guilt should be carried. Regret is not meant to paralyze the heart. It is meant to guide it back. When repentance is sincere, even quiet and imperfect, it transforms shame into clarity. The heart begins to understand that its mistakes did not erase its worth, nor did they diminish Allah's willingness to forgive. Hard times soften He hard enough to finally face what it once avoided. In ease, repentance is often delayed. In pain, it becomes urgent and honest. Tears shed in repentance wash more than sins. They wash the false belief that you must earn mercy through perfection. The Prophet taught that Allah is more pleased with the repentance of His servant than a traveler who finds what he lost in the desert. This pleasure is not measured by words, but by the direction of the heart. Through repentance, Iman regains its footing. The heart no longer carries the weight of its past as a sentence, but as a lesson. Forgiveness becomes a healing force, realigning the soul with hope, humility, and renewed closeness to Allah. The light of consistency often appears insignificant to a heart overwhelmed by hardship. When pain feels vast, small acts of worship seem fragile, almost meaningless, as if they cannot possibly compete with the weight of sorrow. Yet Allah does not measure actions by their size, but by the sincerity and steadiness behind them. A single repeated act, done with intention, becomes a steady flame in the dark, quietly resisting the pull of despair. Consistency trains the heart to remain connected even when motivation fades. In difficult times, Iman rarely feels loud or energizing. It survives through routine, through returning again and again despite emotional exhaustion. A brief moment of dhikr, a short dua whispered without eloquence, a prayer performed with heaviness. These are not signs of weak faith. They are evidence of commitment when ease has been removed. Allah reminds us that the most beloved deeds are those that are continuous, even if small, because they protect the relationship between the servant and the Creator. Over time, these small acts reshape the inner world. The heart begins to expect Allah's presence in ordinary moments rather than only in crisis. Darkness does end. OT disappears suddenly. It thins gradually, allowing light to seep through familiar spiritual habits. What once felt forced begins to feel grounding, and what felt distant becomes familiar again. Consistency teaches Imaan how to breathe under pressure, how to remain alive when circumstances feel suffocating. In hardship, consistency is an act of resistance. It declares that pain does not own the heart's direction. Each repeated remembrance is a quiet return, reminding the soul that Allah has never left, even when the heart struggled to feel Him. The intimacy of solitude emerges when the noise of life fades and the soul is left alone with its questions. Hard times have a way of isolating the heart, making familiar voices feel distant and comfort feel unreachable. This loneliness is often feared, yet within it lies a rare closeness to Allah that ease rarely produces. When distractions fall away, the heart finally has space to speak honestly, without performance, without pretense, without borrowed strength. In solitude, the soul stops explaining itself to people and begins turning inward. Thoughts once buried rise gently, sometimes painfully, demanding to be acknowledged. This is where reflection becomes worship. Allah tells us in the Quran that He is closer to us than we realize, and in isolation, that truth becomes personal rather than theoretical. The absence of human reassurance creates room for divine nearness, teaching the heart to rely on Allah's presence rather than validation from creation. Hardship strips relationships down to their limits. People mean well, but they cannot enter the private chambers of pain where only Allah can reach. In those moments, dua becomes more than a request, it becomes companionship. The heart learns how to speak to Allah without filters, sharing fear, confusion, longing, and weakness. This honesty deepens Iman because it is root. In truth, rather than appearance. Solitude also reveals longing. The heart begins to miss Allah in a way it never did during ease. That yearning is not emptiness, it is a sign of spiritual awakening. Through isolation, Iman matures, discovering that closeness to Allah is not found in crowds or noise, but in sincere turning when no one else can listen. The anchor of perspective is formed when the heart finally releases the illusion of control. Hardship exposes how fragile human planning truly is, dismantling the belief that effort alone guarantees outcomes. When plans collapse and expectations fail, the soul is confronted with a painful truth: reliance was misplaced. This realization is not meant to humiliate the heart, but to realign it. Allah alone holds the unseen, and Iman strengthens when the heart accepts its own limits and turns fully toward Him. Perspective shifts when hardship is no longer viewed as evidence of failure, but as a mirror reflecting where trust was invested. The heart begins to see that strength was never meant to come from certainty about the future, but from surrender to the one who governs it. Allah reminds us that power and control belong to Him alone, and this awareness softens the anxiety that comes from trying to manage what was never ours to command. Through this lens, hardship becomes instructive rather than destructive. Each disappointment clarifies what truly matters, peeling away attachments that quietly competed with reliance on Allah. The soul learns that stability does not come from circumstances aligning, but from faith remaining steady regardless of alignment. Tawakkul deepens when the heart learns to rest without guarantees, trusting divine wisdom over personal prediction. As perspective settles, Iman becomes grounded rather than reactive. The heart stops swinging between hope and despair based on outcomes, and instead cores itself in Allah's constancy. This anchoring does not erase pain, but it prevents it from uprooting faith, allowing the soul to remain firm even as life continues to shift around it. Hard times do not come to extinguish Iman, they come to reveal its true weight. What survives when comfort is removed is not weak faith, but real faith. Faith that has learned how to breathe through pain, how to trust without clarity, and how to stand when nothing else remains. Allah does not measure your closeness by how calm your life looks, but by how sincerely your heart turns to Him when everything feels heavy. Every tear, every unanswered question, every moment of waiting has been seen, recorded, and wrapped in divine mercy. You were never forgotten in the struggle. You were being drawn closer in a way ease could never achieve. If your heart still turns toward Allah, even quietly, even imperfectly, then your Iman is alive and growing. Return to Him again and again, because the one who guided your heart through hardship will never abandon it once it seeks Him.